Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina, and on behalf of Choice, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, AI, Algorithms, and Librarians, the Evolution of the Librarian in the Gen AI Era, which is sponsored by Elsevier. This session is one in a series of sponsored webinars from Choice that addresses new ideas and developments of interest to the academic library community. I'll just put a couple links in the chat where you can register for upcoming webinars and watch previous webinar recordings. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. All attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so don't worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. To adjust the size of the slides or video, you can use the divider in the middle of the screen to slide the sizes to your liking. We are using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to submit any questions or comments for our speakers. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation, so please do type your questions into the Q&A module as they occur to you. You can also use the upvote feature to highlight questions you like or would like to be addressed. Also, there's closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the Show Captions button on the bottom panel of your screen. You can also turn on automated translation for the captions by clicking the arrow button, toggling on translation, and selecting your preferred language. Please note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with links to the recording and today's slides. Also, if you're interested in library technology, LibTech Insights, or LTI, is a content vertical from Choice that examines the day-to-day impact of library and education technology on academic librarians, researchers, and students. The channel provides practical guidance on technology trends and products, including AI, AI literacy, user experience, useful tools, and job profiles, all of which are written by and for librarians. You can find out more about LTI and read the blog via the links in the chat. We send out one email a week on our latest posts and some handpicked tech news stories, usually in the realm of AI. Okay, that's enough out of me. And with that, we're ready to get started. So I will hand it over to Emily.
Great. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And thanks to everyone for being here with us today. My name is Emily Singley, and I am a librarian who works at Elsevier. And I am delighted to be here today with two wonderful speakers. We have with us today Melissa Del Castillo. Melissa is the chair of the ARIS Artificial Intelligence in Reference and User Services Interest Group at ALA. And we also have Evan Simpson here with us today, the Associate Dean of Experiential Learning and Academic Engagement at Northeastern University. And Melissa and Evan are going to be sharing their perspectives on how AI is shaping libraries and library services. So with that, we're going to kick off with a few questions for you. So we've got a couple of poll questions that we'd like you to answer. You should see the poll coming up on your screen. Thank you, Sabrina. So we've got two questions we'd love to hear from you. The first one is, where is your institution in developing an AI policy? So both myself and the speakers are kind of curious to know. Some universities are all over this. They're doing all sorts of policies around AI, others not so much. So where are you at in terms of AI policy at your institution? And then the second question is also around kind of, how are you thinking about AI tools in terms of collection development? And this is something that I think we're very interested in sort of getting a temperature check on where librarians are at with this. So just take a minute and answer these questions, and then we will put the results up on the screen. And one thing I'll say about especially the collection services, one thing I haven't seen, which kind of combines both these questions, is has anyone developed a collection development policy around AI tools? I have yet to see one, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who's done it. So if you have, I'd love to hear about that. Okay, good. So we've got some responses here. This is great to see. Thank you for responding. Interesting to see that We do have 27% who have an approved policy already in place. I think if we had asked that question a year ago, that would have been a very different answer. Great to see that progress being made. And a lot of you, the majority of you, are in the planning stages on AI policy. Um, and then in terms of the incorporation of AI tools in your collection services, we've got a bunch of people trialing. We've got 21% already subscribing, and the majority also in the exploration stage. So really great to see that. Really kind of even across all these questions for answers for both these questions. Excellent. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for the responses. Now, I am going to kick us off with just a really brief overview of kind of where are we at in this AI transformation that we're all living through. Um, Generative AI, of course, has been with us now for a good 4 years, and it has changed everything about how we interact with the information ecosystem. There's pretty much nothing about how people teach, learn, or do research that hasn't been impacted. Search and discovery, of course, has fundamentally shifted and changed. The way we think about how we search for information is different than it was before ChatGPT, right? And I always like to quote Leo Lowe, who is a noted thought leader on AI in academic libraries. And he recently came out with this piece published in the Journal of Academic Librarianship, where he talks about this very point around how it's not search anymore, it's answers. It's about getting an answer rather than a whole bunch of search results. And that is something we need to think about as librarians in terms of how we work with our users. And reading has fundamentally changed, right? The way we interact with full text is different now than it was before. We're interrogating, we're summarizing, we are synthesizing. Yeah, we're asking questions of documents. And I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, right? We talk a lot about critical thinking and so on, but there's certainly some really impressive things that have come out of AI around equity and accessibility. And I think the way these tools can make content more accessible to more users is probably something we can see as a really good thing. Of course, AI is ubiquitous across the internet and the way we use the web. It's pretty much impossible to not get AI summaries everywhere you go. And that has changed the way people engage with information in their daily lives. And agentic AI is absolutely here now. We have systems that can work as agents across different tools and platforms on your behalf. Students are doing this, researchers are doing this, everybody is doing this, right? So it's interesting to see this coming into the scholarly space. And the last thing I want to touch on just really quickly is I wanted to share some research that we recently did at Elsevier around how STEM researchers and clinicians are using AI tools in their work. And we did a survey. It's called the Researcher of the Future Report. That showed that 84% of researchers are using AI. That's up from 37%. It's up 37% from the last time we surveyed a year ago. And so we're seeing really impressive adoption rates of AI. But however, we're seeing this really huge trust gap. So of those 84% that are using AI, only 22% actually trust the tools that they're using, and they have concerns about errors. They have concerns about ethical development, responsible development. And they also are experiencing a little bit of information overload with there's just so many tools, they don't know which one to use. So I think the good news is that we're starting to see scholarly research tools emerge. And this reminds me a lot of the early days of the web. I'm old enough to remember that, and I can say that it was the same kind of conversation we were having back then when e-resources and Google and internet search was all very new, which is back then we used to say, don't start with Google, start with a library database, right? And now we're saying don't start with generic ChatGPT that's going to give you answers from Reddit. start with a library database. It's the same answer, right? And of course, I want to give a shout out about LeapSpace, which is Elsevier's latest research grade AI platform. And I encourage you to check it out if you're in the market for looking at AI tools. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Melissa, who's going to talk about how reference librarians are experiencing the AI shift. So over to you, Melissa.
Hi, thank you so much. Really great information. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Del Castillo, and I'm the chair of an interest group called ARIS. It is open to all ALA members. I will be sharing the details if you're interested in joining. And I just want to let you know that this presentation is a culmination of ARIS discussions over the past few years, plus research and dedication from information professionals. So let's get into it. Today, we'll explore how academic librarians are engaging with AI and how we are teaching AI literacy within higher education. So, AI now underpins search engines, productivity tools, learning platforms, student research practices, and according to the 2025 Gallup poll, nearly all Americans use at least one AI-enabled product a week. That's 100%, everyone. Highlighting its ubiquity, impact on information-seeking behaviors. And academic librarians have traditionally guided users through information shifts, from print to digital, card catalogs to databases, and now we are doing the same with AI. Our roles in reference and instruction place us at the front lines. Students ask us about AI tools, faculty look at us for guidance, and we are being asked to help shape campus conversations around AI literacy. Their grounding in information literacy makes librarians uniquely prepared to lead AI literacy efforts. At the end of the presentation, I'll share our Eris Zotero folder, which has all of the references that I am talking about in the reports. So, So why does AI matter in academic libraries, especially those library professionals who conduct reference and instruction activities? AI literacy is a top sought out skill by employers. LinkedIn, 2025 poll. Many students are underprepared to use AI responsibly and critically, and AI offers benefits like idea generation, language support, but also poses ethical risks, bias, privacy. And academic librarians provide a balanced approach contextualizing these issues for learners. There is a new academic reality. AI is integral to academic workflows, affecting everything from basic research to complex information discovery across disciplines. Professionals must address challenges. The rise of AI necessitates confronting issues of accuracy, bias, authority. We are key experts in information evaluation and navigating the ethical gray areas of AI-driven research. Librarians are essential educators for AI. We guide critical thinking, moving beyond technical instruction. We advocate for responsible use by focusing on applied ethics to maintain academic integrity. And librarians are uniquely positioned due to our expertise in research skills, information evaluation, and critical thinking. So what do we need? We need an embedded framework, an AI understanding that should be integrated into established information literacy frameworks, kind of like an information literacy 2.0, coupled with the ACRL frameworks. This deep engagement ensures ethical and rigorous student interaction with academic information, helping learners identify risks like hallucinations or bias and use AI critically. So why does it matter to academic librarians now? For this part, I'm going to lean heavily into Dr. Leo Lowe, which I know he was already mentioned, his AI literacy guide, and also the February 2025 library trends issue on generative AI and librarians, thanks to the iSchool at Illinois and especially their editor, Melissa Wong. So AI brings capabilities, but also risks, including the bias and misinformation, privacies, and challenges to academic integrity. There needs to be an implicit mandate for AI literacy, acknowledge the AI preparedness gap, essential competencies. AI literacy is a critical skill for students, faculty, and staff driven by workforce demand. There's an instructional gap. Students feel underprepared to use AI effectively and responsibly. So, what are the key challenges to academic integrity? One is accuracy versus fluency. Generative AI can produce polished but inaccurate text, fabricating citations. Scholarly rigor. AI can obscure the origin of ideas, blurring the line between credible scholarship and algorithmic output. And adoption tension. Without guidance, students risk either over relying on AI and creating cognitive offloading or avoiding it altogether. So the library's role is framing the solution, focusing on AI literacy embedded in every aspect of information literacy instruction and interactions. So librarians could teach AI literacy as an extension of an existing information literacy course, focusing on how information and authority are constructed. And we could start by addressing the bias, help the community understand how AI systems can encode and perpetuate bias. Also, ethics and intellectual responsibility. Instruction must move beyond technical skills to cover not just data privacy, surveillance, and the environmental impact, but also equitable access and the growing digital divide. The ultimate goal is to move the academic community from uncritical AI adoption to thoughtful, critical decision making. I want to discuss concrete ways reference librarians can engage with AI, and I'll be looking at reference services as the front line. Academic librarians engaging with AI and reference services. Students bring AI questions, brainstorming, summarizing, drafting to reference desks, signaling a shift from discouraging AI to its use, the no to the how. Libraries are integrating AI into one-on-one support with reference interviews, now covering whether to use an AI tool, how to cite it, and its reliability. Librarians use this expertise and research skills and critical thinking to evaluate AI outputs, summaries, hallucinations, biased content with students. So let's talk about the new reference interview where it needs demonstrating of critical evaluation. Librarians can guide students on citations, properly attributing AI-generated content, fact-checking, comparing AI output with academic sources to build critical AI literacy, critical awareness, addressing algorithmic bias and the LLM limitations. So how can we do this? Well, one is leading by example. Internal AI literacy. Librarians build expertise by practicing with AI behind the scenes. So librarians as researchers using AI in our own workflows, and also gap analysis, identifying where AI excels and where AI fails in a scholarly context to better advise students. And this brings me to finally modeling ethical and responsible use. Librarians actively demonstrate critical evaluation of outputs. We demonstrate limitations, comparing AI summaries to peer-reviewed journal abstracts, point out contextual gaps, highlighting that AI often misses disciplinary context and methodological nuance, and encouraging verification, teaching students to check for hallucinations, fake citations, and bias. And the goal is to transition students to critical collaborators, not just passive users. So how can we do this? Well, there's the human in the loop model that is positioning AI as a scholarly aid that requires constant human oversight rather than a replacement for work. AI is a tool, not a replacement, emphasizing that AI is supplement to, also not a substitute for rigorous scholarly research and lifelong learning, and real-world grounding. These individualized interactions turn abstract AI ethics into applied literacy based on specific disciplinary needs. So how are we integrating AI into information literacy instruction? Instruction librarians are beginning to teach foundational AI concepts, machine learning, large language models, and why AI tools can be inaccurate. Critical AI literacy aligns well while existing IL frameworks like evaluation, authority, and bias coincide. Hands-on workshops, including prompt engineering and output checking, are highly effective, teaching students not to just use AI, but how to contextualize and double check it. AI ethics, covering data set bias, privacy, environmental cost, and misinformation risks, might be central, aligning the library's mission to empower responsible ethical information use. Integrating AI into information literacy instruction. So how can we do this? With embedding AI into the curriculum, integrate AI into existing lessons on source evaluation and research, moving away from standalone topics, but incorporating AI literacy across various instructional formats. So that could include um, the full course or one-shot instruction, consultations, also micro-credential badges. So demystifying the black box. Teach foundational technical literacy, machine learning, trading data, probabilistic, that's a long one, probabilistic text generation to help students understand why AI produces confident but incorrect informations, i.e. hallucinations. Knowing how the system works is crucial. Oops. To critical trust. So also active learning, hands-on experimentations. We know this works best. We've had many conversation in our group about this, using workshops for direct experimentation with these generative AI tools, encouraging side-by-side analysis of AI inputs and traditional sources, and reflective practice on the process of AI interactions to highlight utility and limits. Also, faculty collaboration and pedagogy, partnering with faculty on assignment design that acknowledges AI, not just denies AI, emphasizing core value like transparency and attribution, positioning AI skills with broad pedagogical frameworks for transferability across disciplines. So let's talk about critical AI literacy and library values. Let's frame the library's role in this ethical AI landscape. The ethical imperative. AI adoption isn't just a technical shift, but an ethical one, that it requires examining the hidden costs of automation. The library as a moral compass. Librarians are the traditional guardians of information ethics. We can now apply long-standing values like privacy and equity to the black box nature of AI. Our ultimate goal is transformation, a shift in our academic community from passive users to critical evaluators. The goal is to move students beyond simply using tools towards questioning their neutrality and societal impact. So, how do we facilitate this shift in our academic community from passive users to critical evaluators? What are some of the tenets of critical AI literacy that incorporate library values? So, one is the myth of AI neutrality. Embedded bias. AI systems reflect the biases of their training data and the priorities of their developers. Critical scrutiny. Librarians teach students to look beyond the output and question the social, economic, and political structures underlying these tools. And beyond the surface, shifting from an uncritical acceptance to a deep, thoughtful engagement. Also, key ethical pillars. We need to look at algorithmic bias and misinformation, identifying how systems can reinforce stereotypes or spread inaccuracies, privacy and data sovereignty, highlighting the risk of commercial platforms that collect and store sensitive user data, and combine this with alignment with our library core values, our professional standards. AI literacy is a modern manifestation of core values like intellectual freedom, equity of access, and user privacy. And then move to proactive leadership, guided by organizations like the ALA. Libraries are playing an active role in shaping adoption rather than just reacting to it. And finally, empowering the student voice, centering the student voice. critical information literacy, framing AI literacy as a tool for empowerment, informed choices. Students should be equipped to decide when and if and how to use AI based on a holistic understanding of its impact. And human agency, reminding the academic community that humans, not algorithms, remain the primary authors of scholarly values. So, what are challenges that await academic librarians committed to AI literacy integration? I want to acknowledge that while the mission is clear, the path forward for librarians and library staff is fraught with institutional and technical hurdles. So there is a support gap. There's a paradox rising institutionally where institutional expectations versus the reality of limited formal training and resources provided to librarians, the burden of rapid evolution, highlighting the cognitive and temporal load on staff who must continually upskill while maintaining their existing core responsibilities in a fast-moving field, and that we are navigating ambiguity. The librarian's current role is building the plane while flying it, managing student needs amidst evolving institutional policies, ethical uncertainty, and the growth of the AI industry. So, what are these barriers specifically? Well, one is institutional training barriers. According to the Clarivate Pulse of the Library report, 32% of librarians reported zero access to institutional AI training in 2024. An impact on confidence. Lack of support directly hinders the ability of staff to experiment with tools to develop authoritative instructional content. Time adaptability constraints, continuous upskilling. Unlike traditional research methods, AI evolves weekly, requiring constant testing and community learning. Resource tension. Staff must find ways to balance this new work with traditional duties in reference, instruction, and collection development. There are also policy and ethical uncertainties, evolving guidelines. Librarians are often forced to interpret ambiguous academic integrity rules by their institutions in real time. Couple this with how many institutions lack an AI strategic plan or formal AI policy, and it forces librarians to navigate institutional uncertainty and about appropriate and ethical AI adoption. These challenges underscore why library professionals need ongoing professional development and strong campus partnerships. Addressing these barriers is essential to academic librarians if they want to sustain a meaningful engagement with AI over time. So, what is the path forward? I believe it's sustaining engagement requires definite professional development, peer learning networks, and institutional recognition of AI literacy as a core library function. And this is probably one of the main reasons why I created ARIS and had so many people join me in this endeavor. How can we foster our future as AI strategic leaders? So there is a current paradigm shift happening on campuses. AI literacy is now an essential part of academic success. The library is moving from a support service to a strategic partner in the university's technological evolution. According to Clarivate's 2025 report, 56% of librarians recognize AI will require significant upskilling or reskilling of teams. The library has long-standing expertise in ethics and evaluation, which is why and what the campus actually needs to navigate the AI era. Academic librarians, especially in reference and instruction, are uniquely equipped to help students and faculty navigate the technology, the nuance, critical thinking, and ethical awareness of these AI products. So, in conclusion, we need a shift from support to strategy. We need proactive leadership, moving beyond reactive support to become proactive partners in institutional AI strategy. We have campus-wide influence. Librarians are essential contributors to policy discussions and curriculum design at the university level. We also have natural authority, expertise in information ethics, evaluation, and pedagogy, and that makes librarians uniquely qualified to lead these conversations. Our unique value proposition is that we are a triple threat of expertise. We have deep knowledge in evaluation, instruction, and ethics that other departments may lack. We also provide our academic community with critical insight, how it works, ethical awareness, should we use it, and scholarly rigor, how to use it well. So, this vision for the future, what can it involve? We can become empowered navigators. We aren't just teaching a tool, we are leading the conversation to ensure campus AI policies remain critically informed and equitable. We are shaping the transition. By partnering with faculty and designing responsible assignments, we ensure that the institution's scholarly rigor remains intact. And we want integration at scale, AI literacy instruction that is seamlessly woven into teaching, learning, and research. And by embracing AI literacy teaching and responsible practice, we can help shape a future where AI strengthens rather than undermines learning and scholarship. Libraries can shape the ethical, human-centered integration of AI on campus, moving them from passive support roles to active leadership. We have a unique opportunity to claim the center and ensure that technology serves human values, not the other way around. Finally, we can establish the academic library's legacy, which is reaffirming the library as the intellectual heart of the campus, and also an educational technology innovator. So thank you all for listening to me rattle on about AI, one of my favorite topics. I'll share some links in the chat about how you can join our discussion group, our interest group, Eris, and also all of our my references for this presentation. Thank you all. I hope I get some good questions. I'll pass it on to you, Evan.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was inspiring. Really, really great. Such great sentiments to end on too, in terms of how we position the library going forward. I'm here to talk about library strategy for AI integration at Northeastern. This is all about positioning the library as a leader in AI-enabled research and learning. And I'll really be focusing on an organizational approach to AI integration and adoption, really providing some insight on theoretical, tactical, and political approaches to carving out our identity in this newest age of technological disruption. Some of our foundations, some of our theoretical foundations is integration over adoption. Adoption's great, but AI is becoming a really foundational layer, as Emily pointed to, and Melissa, shaping discovery, research workflows, and teaching, right? Not just a peripheral experiment. It is one thing to adopt, and again, another to integrate. So the larger frame for us is really integration. Melissa, I think you just spoke very well to this in terms of the power libraries have to influence teaching, learning, and scholarship on campus. And it's that kind of integration into those ecosystems that we are interested in pursuing. Within that, we see the library hopefully as an institutional leader and hope others do as well. We want to be a hub that connects faculty, students, IT, leadership, right, with publishers, tools, content solutions, right? We want to embed AI into licensed collections and vice versa, into research support, into other enterprise platforms that we have influence over. Some of our really large aspirations, of course, like any organization in today's fast-moving world, balancing innovation with responsibility, balancing experimentation with sustainability, building organizational capacity all along. And really what we're going for is, of course, for our user community, increasing trust in institutional AI platforms. One of our guiding approaches is really user behavior as a guide. We can see that hybrid research is now the norm. Users are switching between disciplinary databases, the open web, and AI tools based on the task and rarely choosing one path. As students experience their arc of education as undergraduates, they eventually choose a major and are asked to understand and delve into and dive into discipline-specific resources. And so it's really AI as for orientation and databases still for depth, right? So conversational AI increasingly used for quick background starting points, and curated indices, primary sources, et cetera, remain absolutely essential for discipline-specific research. So the summary is, again, users are going to toggle between these many tools. AI is quickly replacing, in our view, the open web for basic information, but curated resources remain really essential for deep research, and students are still being asked to go and find those things and use those things alongside using things like ChatGPT, et cetera. One of our tactical strategies or approaches, if you will, is a dual track AI strategy. And so track one, and not necessarily in priority order here, is library licensed tools. And I noticed, so 21% of us have already licensed something based on the poll, and others are starting to their evaluations, others are further along. We are absolutely invested, literally, in licensing new or add-on AI-powered discovery and research platforms that improves search, organization, synthesis of information. Track two is really about enterprise-wide LLM integration, and Northeastern is a Claude institution partnering with Anthropic. We've had that in place for over a year now. So we are partnering with central IT and other stakeholders to shape that architecture, governance, and deploy tools that enhance discovery, ensuring access to licensed content is built into the institution's implementation. We have a long ways to go, but some of our experiments have been really fruitful so far. So summary, we have agency in our collections budgets, right, to license AI-powered discovery tools. We can do that. And we can also play an active role shaping the enterprise LLM if we have that opportunity. Investments in both tracks positions the library as a proactive architect and partner in our institution. One of our approaches is seamless access to licensed content. And some of our experiments are all about connecting AI answers within that enterprise-wide LLM to authenticated full text via proxied links, structured citations, and standards like MCP, Model Context Protocol. Why does this matter? Well, as LLMs become the primary starting point or entry point, licensed scholarship risks becoming invisible. Our role is to protect those collection investments, boost the return on those investments, improve usability, and maintain license compliance while keeping peer-reviewed sources central within enterprise LLMs. We want our students and faculty to be able to penetrate the scholarly literature we've licensed while they're inside doing searches in Claude. It's paramount that AI queries link directly to licensed full text. This is return on investment. Experimentation with proxying and MC-based integrations shows really positive results. So students are not hitting paywalls, they are getting straight to, or users are not hitting paywalls. We have the opportunity to get them straight to full text if we're able to implement some of these solutions. AI experimentation and institutional impact is absolutely a tactical and political approach. So this is a strategic investment of our time, of some of our funding, not isolated pilots. We're looking at both tracks, track one and track two, that absolutely build trust, visibility, and alignment with institutional priorities, turning experimentation into enduring relevance. We're looking at platform adoption and pedagogical partnerships. So by strengthening the enterprise LLM and integrating into teaching, we become a credible partner in how learning is delivered. And we have some great recent examples of working with partners on campus on the teaching aspect of using artificial intelligence. We are looking at fundable initiatives and sustainable impact for those initiatives. So experiments generate fundable grant-aligned ideas for supporting AI integration within the research lifecycle. And this is aimed at labs, centers, and institutes. Some very exciting conversations starting to unfold on what impact we could have in the research lifecycle when it comes to enterprise-wide LLMs, and of course, some of the library licensed tools as well. So we're hoping to build trust, right, in the institutional LLM and deepen integration with teaching and learning, and of course, generate fundable research support initiatives. We want to be a proactive partner, not a passive observer. And this is really a political approach to integration at our institution. Early adoption of AI tools catalyzed staff engagement. Feedback to vendors and campus partners has been a way to continue engaging and learning about how AI works. Policies for AI platform evaluation have been designed, developed, and are now in practice in our organization. We are seeing that moving early does shape outcomes. So licensing those AI tools that we did early on in the fall of 2023 ahead of broad adoption at Northeastern absolutely helped increase engagement before many decisions and thoughts were solidified at our institution. So we felt like we were ahead of the curve, and that was really a staff-driven set of evaluations that led to, again, licensing a few platforms in fall of 2023. We want to be a partner in enterprise implementation, so providing structured vendor feedback, driving campus AI adoption while defining our role all along. I mentioned balance in the first slide, balancing innovation with governance, building internal policy evaluation frameworks to ensure sustainability and trust amongst our staff, so that we know we have great sound processes for evaluating products, and defining agile goals and aspirations, right, to flex with institutional priorities and those fast emerging and developing user trends. There are some important future directions for Northeastern when we think about AI integration, specific to teaching and learning. We have some work to do clarifying organizational goals, AI goals, aligned with teaching, learning, and student success. We want to continue partnering with publishers on model context protocol-based integrations and discovery solutions that benefit learners. We want to involve undergraduate and graduate students in expanded pilot testing of MCP connectors in Claude. We want to grow programming on the use of AI and related tools in course preparation, course design, and in how we design experiences for learners at Northeastern. And finally, in terms of research and discovery, we continue to explore lab-focused library support for AI-enabled information discovery. We want to support AI adoption in lab training, education, and data management, examine ways AI is used to enhance proposal development, and thinking about books and AI, which is the next big challenge beyond journal literature. How do we extend discovery beyond journals and integrate books into the AI discovery environment? I'll stop there. Appreciate any questions, and very appreciative to be here with such an engaged community.
Thank you so much, Evan, and thank you to Melissa. Two really excellent talks. And I loved how what both of you talked about dovetailed so nicely with common themes around how the library really can play a central, integral, and strategic role around AI and AI literacy. So thank you so much for both of your talks. Really excellent. I am going to pull up the last slide we have here, which will leave this up for a couple minutes so you all get a chance to grab any QR codes you might have missed. Joining Eris, if you want to join the Russo group there, the interest group. I had mentioned, Elsevier's AI platform in case you want to learn more, and also the report that I cited is up there too. So we're going to turn it over now to you for Q&A. And you'll see the Q&A box at the bottom there. And we've already have a whole bunch of questions, which is fantastic. I know we are not going to get to 57 questions in 15 minutes. So I apologize in advance if we don't get to your question. I do want to point out that we have the upvote feature where there's the little thumbs up button on the Q&A. You should all be able to see that and upvote. The way we're going to go through your questions is I am literally just going to go down, sort this by the most upvotes, and we'll start with the one that has the most. So if you want to get your question upvoted, I don't know, you can work on that in the background, but I'll just kick it off here. We have a question from Aiden, which is got 34 upvotes. And I think this is for you, Melissa. I'm gonna read out the question here. What do you recommend for librarians and students who have ethical objections toward AI? I want to feel prepared to answer questions about AI and assist students with it if necessary, but I don't want to contribute to the environmental impact it has. I think that's something a lot of reference librarians are struggling with. So what are you guys talking about in Eris? What are you hearing? Any thoughts on that, Melissa?
Well, I do want to say, sorry, my camera is being a little crazy. It's moving all around. But I do want to say that the ALE governance is working on creating, I'm going to read it so that I don't get it wrong. It's the AI literacy guidelines on AI. It's and I'm on the ALA AI policy work group for intellectual freedom. Within this new guidance for libraries and library professionals, there's going to be sections on the public good, intellectual freedom, which I'm on, privacy, sustainability, ethics, labor, and of course, DEIA. So these conversations are happening, I think, at all levels within libraries, within discussion groups. And I don't know if there is a good answer. What one of the things that we hoped for in this working group is that there would be a way to opt out. And you will see this functionality. I know Primo VE has their AI search, and you can opt out of it and do a regular discovery search with Primo. So we're hoping to, influence these large databases and library consortiums to, if they're creating a tool, to make a way for individuals to opt out, because there are many issues, and I would totally agree with you on all of them that it is a balance of weighing the risk and the reward of using AI. But I think librarians, it's very important for us because we're the ones that can bridge that gap. We could show users how to be empowered. If everyone is demanding sustainability from these AI data centers that are purposely planning their data centers right on top of water reserves, um, then maybe if we're creating these discernible information consumers, there could be enough of a movement to change the way that these big AI companies are operating. Um,
Great.
I hope that helps.
That's a really no, that's a great point, Melissa, because um, I hadn't thought about AI literacy in that way before, but in a way, you're sort of creating the next generation of kind of responsible AI users, right? It's not just how do I use this tool responsibly myself, but how do I advocate for companies to be more responsible? Yeah,
And
I love
transparent.
that. Yeah, yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you so much for that question. Um, Next one up, we have, and I'm just going to keep refreshing this. Environmental. This is from Liz. Thank you, Liz. What is the environmental cost of all these AI products? Is Elsevier looking at this for their tools in addition to the other ethical risks? I think that's probably for me, so I'll I'll take that one. This is a question we get quite a bit, and I will say that as we've developed our AI integrations into our databases, we have thought very carefully about how we do this. We're integrating AI because of users who are asking for it. We are a STEM company that supports researchers, clinicians, and they really find these tools useful. However, we want to make sure that we're minimizing environmental risk. So there's a few ways we do that. The first thing is we don't use large language models when we don't have to. There's a lot of things you can do with small language models or good old LMs, not the LLMs, which do not have that environmental risk associated because they're much, much, much smaller. So for example, analyzing that initial query, that natural language query, you don't need a huge large language model to do that. Um, and also, we're making sure that we use it sparingly and only and as efficiently as possible, right? So we don't need to read through the entire corpus of Science Direct every single time, right? We can run traditional search in the background and then pull up relevant content and then read those with the LLM, right? So things like that. Also making sure that we partner with companies that have zero carbon goals that match our own corporate zero carbon goals is important. And also someone mentioned opt out, Melissa, right? Opt out is really important. So we aren't replacing traditional databases with AI tools. It's another tool you can use, but good old traditional Scopus, good old traditional Science Direct is still there for you if you want to run those traditional searches. And I think, Evan, you mentioned hybrid the way students and scholars and researchers are using these tools in a hybrid fashion, we're absolutely seeing that with the user testing that we do with researchers literally going back and forth between like a natural language search and then a traditional Boolean operator, deep search using a traditional database. So I think we're seeing that kind of behavior. But yeah, it is a really excellent point, something we're very aware of, and we think about that quite a bit. So thank you for that question. Oh, there's so many questions. This is fantastic. I wish we had all day. All right, so the next one is from David. David says, why is student avoidance of AI a quote unquote risk? Are there not good reasons for refusal? And I think either one of you could probably take this question. I'm going to start with you this time, Evan. Do you see this at Northeastern, avoidance of AI, and are there good reasons for refusal?
I think there are many different reasons that students avoid AI. I think we need to be more specific. Students are wary of institutional LLMs sometimes because of privacy concerns, which is completely valid. There are obviously policies regarding teaching, learning, right, and that guide student behavior when it comes to AI. They suspect that is sometimes being monitored when they are using the institutional LLM. And so that is a challenge, right, in not convincing, but showing students documentation, policies, et cetera, that reveal or represent the level of privacy that faculty, staff, administrators, and the contract itself bakes into that environment that does protect a student's query from being scraped or discovered by someone else at Northeastern. So in terms of avoidance, that is one particular situation that we know some students have vocalized in terms of wanting to avoid, again, the institutional LLM. I think different opinions from students, and this is anecdotal. I'm not basing this off of any survey, but having worked closely with some folks in our Student Government Association just recently, I was surprised to hear some of them say, I don't believe in AI, I don't want to use it, it's not something for me. And others say, I'm using it for these very specific tasks that are really improving my day-to-day life. And others saying, I've gone way overboard. I mean, they didn't use that word, but I'm using it for more than I thought I ever would. So I'm not surprised, and there's not a good answer here to say that we are still at this moment of great evolution, right, and emerging user behavior. And it's almost like day to day, folks are figuring out, what are the paths they want to take and how are those aligned with their principles, their ethics, and what they're expected to output that day. So, those factors, I think, change our motivation, right, as information seekers, our willingness to engage with certain platforms. So my point here is that the student who says will not use it one day may make a totally different set of choices the next day based on any number of different factors that, of course, in libraries we don't always see or know. But this is a really good question. I'm looking forward to more user studies. There have been we've made some really great gains in the last few months in terms of user studies compared to the prior 3 months. So this is definitely a fast-moving answer to this is fast-moving. I'm looking forward to more information for sure.
Yeah, a really good point. I put a couple of surveys in the chat, one from Amy Deschen, who runs the user experience at the Harvard Lab, and another one from Inside Higher Ed, which is a little outdated now, but has a really nice breakdown of what students are using AI tools for. And it's not always search and discovery. That's actually not the top thing they use it for. But I also want to give a shout out. There was a recent article that came out this year from some folks at Pepperdine who actually looked at students using AI and comparing it to their use of library databases. I will try and track that one down for you as well. All right, let's get to another question. Thank you for that, Evan. And I think we have time for maybe a couple more. This one from Sarah. Has anyone in librarianship benefited from AI in a concrete way? It is supposed to increase productivity, but has anyone been able to work a 38-hour week now that they use AI instead of 40 hours a week? Just curious if this is something that actually makes our lives easier or something that is added on to what we already have to do and know? This is such a great question, Sarah. I used AI today to write a report that would have taken me like a week, but I'm still going to work a 40-hour week. So it's sort of like, is this just making me do more work? I don't know. Melissa, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, sure. So, there's this great quote that I use in my workshops, that is, I wanted AI to do my dishes and buy my groceries so I could do art and travel. But all AI is good for is creating travel itineraries and creating images. So I'm still left with doing the dishes and taking care of the house. And it's true. I mean, I wish there was an AI library bot. I don't know what they would do. Would they shush people proactively? But what I think is, these, you know, little ways, these little low stakes projects that we're doing, these tasks that we're doing that we can just reduce our mental load. I think that's the biggest benefit. I do not think that AI will ever take over as a librarian. I know there was a recent study that just came out by some AI company about education, librarianship being one of the targets for these AI companies to automate, but not 100%. I think it was 60. I'll add it to my Zotero folder if you're interested in reading it. But I mean, the main thing is we are humans, and I think human intervention is needed when we are using these tools and teaching these tools, and we do need to create these learners who see this as a tool, not like to take over any kind of big-minded tasks. I don't think AI is prepared to do that. Does not have the capabilities to discern authority, to not hallucinate. So I don't think there is the risk that it's going to take over our jobs, but I can see how it can become a nuisance when you're trying to work with students if they're like, well, AI could just do this for me. Um, but teaching them, I guess, that the human intervention is needed.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that, Melissa. Yeah, I think it's just something that we're all um, you know, going to be learning over the next few years as AI becomes more integral in all of our lives. And um, you know, the there's studies out there that talk about technology shift and how every few years we say, we're all going to be working less, right? Milton Friedman back in the 1930s, right, said we'd be working a 3-day week by now. We seem to adopt these technologies, but we're still working just as much. So it's an interesting conundrum. All right, we're going to take maybe one more question quickly here. Let's see who's up next. Gregory, thanks for your question, Gregory. What is the reason for claiming information literacy needs a 2.0? Don't the same exact qualities of information literacy apply to what is just a new technology? So again, I think this one's for you, Melissa. If you want to give us a 30-second response, because I know I have to pass it back
No,
to
okay. I'll be
Sabrina.
quick. Thankfully, someone posted the ACRL AI frameworks that was created by this awesome group, some of which members are in Eris. So, um, but I think that what I meant is that we need to embed AI literacy into information literacy. I don't think it's going to take over, but I think it can augment. And yes, that's what I was also saying is our traditional roles as evaluators, and those that can have a critical eye can these proponents of the framework, which yes, are a living document and definitely we can use those frames in which to look through that lens to see AI literacy and incorporate these AI literacy tenets because it is different than fake news. These outputs are sometimes not just misinformation, but disinformation, if depending on what the biased content that they were trained on. So I think it is a little different, but we can use our skills as librarians and the frames to have a critical eye on both AI tools, but and also the output of these AI tools, the generated content by these Gen AIs.
Perfect. Great. Excellent. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everyone, for so many wonderful questions. Really, really great. I am going to turn it back over to Sabrina, who's just going to close us out. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily. Yeah, I'll just say thank you to Emily, Melissa, and Evan for taking the time to speak with us today. And thank you to our attendees for your questions and your comments and all your interaction. We really appreciate it. I'd like to remind our viewers that we did record today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from Choice with links to the recording and today's slides. Also, if you have a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey, we would really appreciate it. So thanks again to all of you out there for joining us. We hope you learned something new from the webinar and hope to see you again soon on another session. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.